Thanks for checking out this week's podcast here at Apostles. For more information about Apostles, check out our website at www.apostlesstl.com. Enjoy this week's message.
Hey, we're going to be in 2 Kings chapter 6 and chapter 7 this morning. And it's a really, really weird passage. Probably not one that you've heard preached before, and there's some weird stuff that goes on in this passage, and I'm super pumped to share it with you. I'm going to give you a little bit of the context as far as where we're at in redemptive history, okay? So Elisha, the prophet, is on the scene, and in chapter 6, he makes an axe head float to help out a widow, and then right after that is the chariots of fire moment, okay? So what's going on is Syria is making war against Israel. And they're coming and they're just setting up camp, and anytime Israel comes around, they're killing them. But Elisha keeps thwarting Syria. And what he's doing is he's hearing God say, Syria is camped over there. And so he goes and he tells the king of Israel, don't go over there right now because that's where Syria is. By the way, what we're essentially talking about right here is ISIS. I mean, you understand? We're talking about ISIS, right? The people who just beheaded 11 Christians on Christmas Day. This is the same Syria warring against the people of God. It's the same folks, right? There's a lot of history there. So Syria is making war against Israel. And then the king of Syria, Ben-Hadad, he's like, somebody inside, this is all 2 Kings 6, like verses 8 down through about 23. He says, somebody inside of my cabinet, like somebody in my court is a spy. And so his men come to him like, no, nobody's a spy. What's going on is there's a man of God named Elisha, and Elisha is hearing the things that you say in your bedroom. And so the king of Syria is like, cool, let's get the army together. Let's go down to Dothan where Elisha is, and let's kill him. So they take this big army, chariots, horses, for one guy. Like the man of God standing alone out there in Dothan with his servant. And all this gigantic army comes down. And Elisha's servant is like, my Lord, we're in some trouble. Like, we're in a mess, right? We're about to get jumped right here. And Elisha says, don't sweat it, because I'm going to have the Lord open your eyes, and you're going to see what's really going on. Just for a second, just pause and understand this about your own life. You do not have a clue what's really going on around you. You have no field of vision or frame of reference for the mighty battle that's taking place all around you and the great army of God that surrounds you every moment of every day, because you are beloved of the Lord. So Elisha says, Lord, open his eyes so he can see what's really going on. And that's when he sees the chariots and the horses of fire that vastly outnumber the army of Syria. So he's not worried about it. And then Elisha prays, Lord, strike them blind. So God strikes the whole army blind. And then Elisha walks up to him, and he's like, hey, guys, it's like a Star Wars moment. These aren't the drones you're looking for. He's like, I'm not the guy you're looking for, but I'll take you to the guy that you're looking for. Okay, just imagine. I'm not a military guy. But if I go somewhere and my whole army gets struck blind and somebody I don't know is like, follow me, I'll take you to the person you're supposed to kill. They just follow him. They end up right in the middle of Samaria, and the king is there, and the whole army is surrounded by all of Israel, and they're like, Elisha, should we kill him? Should we kill them all? And they're like, Elisha's like, no, man, cook them some dinner. Okay, all right. So they cook them some dinner. They send them on their way. They send them back, and they say, go tell Ben-Hadad what's up. Go tell him what's going on. And then I love, sometimes the Bible, it just comes in with just like this perfect phrase, like this perfect statement, right? It says in verse 23, and the Syrians did not come again on raids into the land of Israel. Yeah, right? No doubt, right? Because the last time we tried that, we went blind and got surrounded. So we don't do that anymore. We got to try a new strategy. So Syria tries a new strategy starting in verse 24. That's where we're going to pick things up. It says, afterward, Ben-Hadad, king of Syria, mustered his entire army and went up and besieged Samaria. Okay, if you don't know what a siege is, imagine if the National Guard came and surrounded Apostles Church and said, nobody gets in and nobody gets out. Now, in Israel at this time, what would happen is outside of the walls of the city would be where all the food was grown, where all the livestock were kept. Inside of the city is where everybody would live. They were protected in there. So Syria comes and they march around the city. Now listen, I've been in the back in the leader's room, and they got some trail mix, and some of it has M&Ms in it. I'm not going to lie to you. Some folks just want to eat the M&Ms, and I don't blame them. I don't fault them. There's no shame in that at all. But eventually we're going to run out of trail mix. That's the whole point of a siege. is just to starve you out and make you surrender. Nobody gets in and nobody gets out. And once we run out of coffee, some people in here are going to lose it. And once we run out of trail mix, some people in here are really going to lose it. And if y'all run out of goldfish crackers in the back, the kids are going to revolt, okay? I'm just telling you right now, there's going to be a rebellion on our hands. It says there was a great famine in Syria as they besieged it, until a donkey's head was sold for 80 shekels of silver, and the fourth part of a cab of dove's dung for 5 shekels of silver. Right? Every time that I read this passage or talk to people about this passage, I get the same questions. How much is that in today's money? Let me just ask you, how much money would you pay to eat a donkey's head? Because that's what's going on. That's how desperate things are getting. They're cutting off the head of a donkey. I've never looked at a donkey and looked at the head and thought, that looks delicious. I want to try some of that. And a fourth of a part of a cab of dove's dung. How much is that? I don't exactly know. How much would you pay for bird poop? Hey, Sway, can I say poop in here? Is that okay, good. I got clearance on that, right? How much would you pay for that? Right? That was a little fire starter so that they could cook their bread, which they didn't have. So they could roast the donkey head. Roast donkey head, that's the barbecue, right? That's the New Year's barbecue. Y'all come on over to the house. We're grilling up some donkey head. 80 shekels of silver, 5 shekels of silver just to get a fire started. Things are getting desperate in this place. I don't need to know the equation of how much money that's worth right now to know. I don't care if you could pay me 80 shekels of silver. I'm not eating a donkey's head that's been rotisseried over a bird poop fire. Ain't happening, okay? I'm not having it. I'm not interested, man. I'm not interested. I go to Jack in the Box. I'll go to White Castle. I'll go to Chick-fil-A. Not today, obviously. But I'm not eating a donkey's head. I don't want it, right? But they're getting desperate. It says, now as the king of Israel was passing by on the wall, a woman cried out to him, saying, help my lord, O king. And he said, if the Lord will not help you, how shall I help you? From the threshing floor, in other words, where the grain happens, right? Can I help you there? There's no grain. Or from the wine press, there's no wine. He's saying, I don't have the means to, I can't help you. What am I supposed to do? If God's not going to help you, what can I do for you? And the king asked her, what's your trouble? And she said, this woman said to me, give your son that we may eat him today, and we will eat my son tomorrow. So we boiled my son and ate him. And on the next day I said to her, give your son that we may eat him, but she has hidden her son. He said, may God do so to me, and more also, if the head of Elisha, the son of Shaphat, remains on his shoulders today. Why is he so mad at Elijah? Because that's the man of God. That's the one he thinks who has some control to be able to manipulate God, to make God do something good for us. And I'm going to go kill him because I'm mad. Elisha, it says in verse 30, this is great. He just sit in his house, hanging out, 32, sit in his house, hanging out with the elders. And then just because God whispers in his ear what's going on, he tells the elders, listen, the murderer, the king, he's going to send some dudes down here, and they're going to try and kill me. He doesn't barely get the words out of his mouth, and there's a knock on the door. Yo, that'd be creepy. You know what I'm saying? That'd be creepy. If you're sitting in a house, you're like, they're going to come and try and kill me. And then, right? Nobody's home. That's how it's like, turn off all the lights real quick. Everybody be real quiet. Cover the baby's mouth. Like, shh, shh. Everybody just chill for a second, right? Just be real quiet. Just be real cool. Don't say anything, right? Elisha's like, I'm not coming out. I'm not going to do anything. Finally, they start interacting. Elisha says to the king and to the court, here's what's going on. In chapter 7, he says, hear the word of the Lord. Thus says the Lord, tomorrow about this time, a seah of fine flour shall be sold for a shekel, and 2 seahs of barley for a shekel at the gate of Samaria. And then the captain of on whose hand the king leaned said to the man of God, if the Lord himself should make windows in heaven, could this thing be? But he said, you shall see it with your own eyes, but you shall not eat of it. Here's what Elisha is saying, that there is going to be the most incredible economic turnaround in history. You're not going to have to eat your children. You're not going to have to eat donkey's head. Everything is going to be affordable again. Everything is going to be reasonably priced again. And the captain of the guard basically says this, that God, he's writing a check with his mouth that his hands can't cash. You know what I'm talking about? He's running his mouth in a way that he cannot produce. He says that if God were literally to open up the windows of heaven and pour down everything that he possessed, he couldn't make that big of a difference. And all of us, like, we want to like tisk tisk the captain of the guard, but don't every one of us have something or someone in our life that if we're honest, like in the quiet recesses of our heart, we're going, yeah, God just can't do anything about that. God is never going to do anything about that. If God, that person is just too hard, they're just too close to the gospel. That if God poured out all of his power, that the walls are too high. They're never going to repent. They're never going to change. This situation's never going to improve. This person is never going to repent and believe in Jesus. It's never going to happen. That is exactly what the captain of the guard is saying. We have just sung about it. We will sing about it again. This whole book is all about it. I mean, not only can he move the mountains, he spoke them into existence. He can just as easily speak them out of existence. He doesn't have to push them. He probably doesn't have to say the words. His will is executed perfectly, flawlessly, immediately. He does whatever he wants and it pleases him. He can do it. That's the bottom line. He can do it. Now, at this point, this story pivots in such a weird way, okay? Because we got all the people desperate inside the city. And in the next verse, in verse 3, we're going to get to take a look at 4 lepers. Lepers were people who had this nasty skin disease. They couldn't come inside the city. So they're sitting outside the city, okay? Now, just imagine, if you will, again, Apostles Church is being besieged by the National Guard, and they are in the streets. And inside is all of us, and standing outside on the lawn is you. And the National Guard says, if you come over here, we're going to kill you. And you know, if I come in here, they start eating people, y'all, and I'm people. I'm made of people. They are eating people, and I am made of people. I'm not coming back in there. So if I come in here, I'm going to die. If I go over there, I'm going to die. That's the 4 lepers. That's the situation that they're in. Look at it in verse 3. It says, there were 4 men who were lepers at the entrance to the gate. And they said to one another, why are we sitting here until we die? If we say, let us into the city, the famine is in the city, and we shall die there. And if we sit here, we die also. So now come, let us go over to the camp of the Syrians. If they spare our lives, we shall live. And if they kill us, we shall but die. It's really much more severe than if the National Guard was standing outside. It's really more like if ISIS is standing outside. That's what's happening. This is a nation that is at war with Israel, and they're outside in the fields just waiting. And these 4 lepers are sitting there like, if we sit at the gate, we're going to die. If we go inside, the famine's in the city. There's nothing in there. We're going to die. Let's just go over to the camp of the Syrians. Maybe they'll have mercy. And if they don't have mercy, at least it's over. Have you ever been desperate? I mean, desperate. You know what I'm talking about. Desperate. You don't know what to do. Desperate. That's these men right here. Let's just go over to the camp of the Syrians. What's the worst that they're going to do? They're going to kill us, and then it's over. We don't have to mess with it anymore. It's just over. It says at verse 5, so they arose at twilight to go to the camp of the Syrians. But when they came to the edge of the camp of the Syrians, behold, there was no one there. For the Lord had made the army of the Syrians hear the sound of chariots, probably those same chariots, hear the sound of chariots and horses, the sound of a great army, so that they said to one another, behold, the king of Israel has hired against us the kings of the Hittites and the kings of Egypt to come against us. So they fled away in the twilight and abandoned their tents, their horses, and their donkeys, leaving the camp as it was, and fled for their lives. And when these lepers came to the edge of the camp, they went into a tent and ate and drank, and they carried off silver and gold and clothing and went and hid them. Then they came back and entered another tent and carried off the things from it and went and hid them. So the lepers show up to the camp of the Syrians, and it's like, like, knock, knock, They show up, there's a bunch of tents, there's a bunch of livestock, there's a bunch of food. There's a bunch of treasure. Here's the tent. Here's the steeple. Open the door. Where's all the people? You know what I mean? Like, nobody's there. So they're like, cool, this is awesome, right? This is awesome. So they go, they gather up as much stuff as they can carry. They take it, they bury it, they hide it. What do they do next? They go to the next tent. Gather up all the stuff. Eat all the food that they can eat. Take it away. Bury it. Hide it. Go to the next tent. Eat everything you can eat. Take away all the treasure, bury it, and hide it over and over on repeat. This is what they're doing. tent to tent to tent to tent to tent. How did this happen? The Lord made the enemy hear this mysterious chariot and horse sound, and the enemy fled. I mean, just absolutely fled. Reminds me of this old Sinbad routine where he talks about his mother's hand. Some of y'all know what I'm talking about. I'm old enough. I grew up when, like, you didn't have to wear a seatbelt in the back seat if you were a kid. Didn't matter how old you were. And we had big cars back then, right? I mean, they were wide, and you rattle around like a couple of peas in a tin can back there, man. You're bouncing around, fighting with your brother, you know. And when your mom would get ticked, when she had enough, that hand would start swinging back at you. You know what I'm saying? She just starts swinging back, and she's going to connect with something, and she doesn't care what. She just wants to hit flesh. It doesn't matter what it is. She's coming for you. Sinbad talks about this. He's like, I was riding around with my brother, and we're fighting, and my mom starts swinging her hand. He's like, my mom's hand was vicious. He goes, so we pull up to the stop sign. My mom starts reaching for me, and I just jumped out of the car and took off running. He goes, I round the corner, and I see my buddy Petey, and my buddy Petey's like, Sinbad. He goes, my mom looked at me, and my butt fell off. He goes, my butt fell off. He says, so I picked up my butt and ran. And he goes, I'm running around the corner. My buddy Petey is like, Sinbad, your mother's hand. Drop your butt and run, right? I mean, she's coming for you. She's going to get you. These lovers, they've got everything that they could possibly want. What else could they want? They're just, take it, go to the next one. 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 And then I love verse 9. It says, then they said to one another, we're not doing right. This day is a day of good news. And if we're silent and wait until the morning light, punishment will overtake us. Now, therefore, come, let us go and tell the king's household. The enemy's camp has been completely emptied, okay? So that's the whole passage. And can I just tell you the things that I have learned that I pull out of this passage? We walk around in the city. We look around. I drove around before I got here some this morning. By the way, what a beautiful city we live in. Did you know that there are more bricks, that there are only 2 cities in the world that use more brick in the city than St. Louis? This is a brick city, man. This is a beautiful city. But it's a tragic city, and it's a broken city. And we look around, and you guys see it more than I see it. You know what's going on. The world's broken. Don't you feel it? Don't you see it? We're tempted to look at it and shake our heads and go, why do people act like that? Why do people do things like that? They do that because they're desperate. You understand? They're desperate. They're absolutely desperate. They're hopeless. They have no lasting purpose. They have no lasting family. They have no lasting hope. They have no lasting peace. They have no lasting meaning. They don't know what it feels like to be accepted and loved, brought into a family. We should never wonder why desperate people act desperate. We don't have to wonder. How could people eat donkeys' heads? Because they don't have anything else. Why would mothers turn on their own children? Because they are desperate. They don't know what else to do. They are desperate. And how about you? How did you come into this faith? How did you come into this abundance of blessing and wealth? To be an heir of the King, immortal, almighty, eternal. How did you become his daughter? How did you become his son? Isn't it true that you were sitting outside and then discovered that the enemy had been defeated for you? Supernaturally, the enemy is defeated. The camp is empty. And can I tell you what I have observed out of my own life and to be the consistent practice of most church-going folk that I know? Come into the tent. We take as much as we can get. We receive the bread of life as it's broken for us by faithful expositors of the word, preachers and teachers of the Bible. We take the treasures, we jot them down in our journals, and then we bury them and we put them away. And what do we do next? The next, we go to a Bible study where we do the same thing. We take the treasures, we put them inside, we bury them, and then what do we do next? We go to the next tent, and the next tent, and the next tent, and the next tent, and the next tent. Receiving. receiving the blessings of an enemy that we did not defeat, treasures that we did not deserve, that we did not earn, that were gifted to us, and that, by the way, we could never dig a big enough hole to put them all in. But what are these lepers going to do with all this treasure? They're taking it, digging holes and burying it, and then going to the next tent and eating as much as they can. Meanwhile, there is an army large enough to surround the entire city of Samaria. How many tents do you think there were? How much food was there? How much treasure was there? And then it hits them. They say this is a good news day. This is the Hebrew equivalent of gospel. The New Testament word, when you see gospel, that's good news. When you see good news, that's gospel. These 4 lepers are literally saying to themselves, today is a gospel day. This is a gospel. This is a good news day. We're not doing the right thing. This is a good news day. I hope that you understand that you and I were never meant to be receptacles for God's mercy and grace, but conduits for it. We're never meant to be the place that it terminates, just the place that it passes through. This city is desperate. Your neighbors are desperate. Your friends are desperate. Your family is desperate. Your coworkers are desperate. The people on this block are desperate. That's why they're acting the way that they're acting. Of course they're acting that way. They don't have any hope. They don't have any reason to believe anything will ever get better. That's why people are so passionate about politics. Because maybe, just maybe, if we elect the right person, then everything in my life will get better. Some stuff might get better, but the stuff that really matters will stay the same. The world around us is growing more and more and more desperate. And I think if Jesus Christ were present with us in the flesh in this moment, he would say to those of us who are his followers, today's a gospel day. Today's a gospel day. Those lepers made a decision, and the decision was to repent. And what were they repenting of? They were repenting of being silent about everything that was available. Look, these are not exactly high society folks. They have to walk around their city all covered up, carrying a bell and yelling out that they're unclean so nobody gets close to them. It's not like they're going to walk into the situation and everyone's going to go, oh, the lepers are here. Everyone be quiet. Let's listen. No, these are outcasts, losers. They have no standing. They're not even welcome inside the city. And they have been shut out by the people that they now have to go back and rescue. I mean, I got to believe somebody knows what that feels like. That somebody in this building knows what that feels like. Look, we're going to go back and we're going to tell them. Nobody's going to believe us. That is not our responsibility. Our responsibility is simply just to tell them, hey, today's a good news day. The enemy has been defeated. You can have really everything that would meet the deepest needs of your heart. You can have a family that will love you. Have you guys experienced that here? I'm not even a part of Apostles Church, and I know there's a family here that loves me. That there are people here. I know that your pastor is on vacation right now, and I have zero doubt that if I called him in this exact moment and I said, I have to have you here, that he would leave and he would come back here. And I'm not even a member of his church. Why would someone do something like that? It's because they understand what family is. I know what it feels like to have my sins forgiven. I mean, preachers are not holy men, except for Jesus Christ has made us holy. I know what it's like to struggle with pornography. I know what it's like to struggle with anger and rage. I know what it's like to struggle with dishonesty. I know what it's like to feel like you're a terrible father and a terrible husband. I know what it's like to feel like a failure at your job and actually be a failure at your job. I'm familiar with all of those things. but someone has carried that for me. Someone has defeated the enemy for me. Look, we say things like, I put my faith in Jesus. You heard that expression? I put my trust in Jesus. I want to help you understand exactly what that means. If you haven't done it, I want to invite you to do it today. When I was a kid, we would go out to eat. My family and I would go out to eat. And maybe your dad or grandpa or mom or somebody did this to you too. But we'd go to the restaurant. And when the bill came, my dad would look at me and he'd say, well, I hope you brought some money. Anybody besides me have your dad do this to you? Like, I hope you brought some money. And I was like, I'm like 7 years old, right? I grew up in the short shorts era for dudes. You know what I'm talking about? Like guys playing basketball in Converse, not me. Basketball's not my gift or my call. It's not because I'm white. It's because I'm white and short. And bad at basketball also. I'm like, I don't even have any pockets. I don't have a job. I'm pretty sure there's no money in my shoe, I don't think. And my dad goes, well, I hope you like washing dishes. Has anybody experienced this besides me? A couple of you? Okay. I hope you like washing dishes. I'm like, it's like you don't know me at all. I hate washing dishes. What are you talking about? I hope you like washing dishes. And then the waitress comes, and my dad goes, he doesn't have any money. And I guess part of the application process, like the interview process for becoming a waiter or a waitress, is that they say, like, you know, a dad or a grandpa is going to be like, he doesn't have any money, and you have to make him say, like, you have to tell him he's going to have to go wash dishes. Oh, yeah, I got that, right? Because the waitress comes over, and my dad's like, he doesn't have any money. And the waitress goes, oh, no, I hope he likes washing dishes. I'm like, did you guys talk before? When I was in the bathroom, did you have a conversation? Like, I'm not sure what's happening right here. I don't like washing dishes. And I'm pretty sure that's like an OSHA violation. Like, that's not safe. I'm only 7. I'm small. I can't reach the thing. And I'm going to do a real bad job. So I don't want to do it. No, I don't want to wash dishes. And then what would my dad do? He would pull out his credit card. He would put it on the bill. She'd take it away. He'd come back and he'd sign his name on it. He'd write a tip in and he'd sign his name. And then out we'd go. And I got to tell you, out of all the times that my dad did that to me, never once did a waitress or a hostess or a host or a manager come running out after us, grab me by the scruff of the neck, throw me back inside and say, no, sir. You ate the food. You have to pay for the food. That never happened. Why? Because my father paid. My dad paid for me. Right? He put his name on the bill. He paid the whole debt that our family had accumulated at this restaurant. And let me tell you something. I don't know how credit cards work. I mean, I understand that they do a magnetic swipey thing. And then somewhere it pulls information from something and takes money out of some account somewhere. I get all that. I don't know how the technology actually functions, right? We have a chip now, doop, and that makes us feel safer. We don't know what the chip does versus a magnetic stripe. I don't know what's happening. I just know my dad put his name there, and I got to walk out. That is what it means to put your faith in someone. Someone makes a payment for you. The next time you go to a meal with someone and they pay for you, understand this. You are putting faith in that person and in the payment that they have made. That's what it means to put your faith in Jesus. Because when he's on the cross, he makes the payment for your sin. Paid in full. That's what he said on the cross. Paid in full. He put his name where your name belonged. You know why? Because you were wearing short pants and you didn't have no money anyway. You couldn't even get a job to earn the money that would qualify you to make the payment. And Jesus, knowing that, said, don't sweat it. I will make the payment for you. This and nothing less is what it is to be a follower of Jesus. This and nothing less is what it is to be a Christian. Is to say, I believe that when he put his name on that line, that payment satisfied my debt. And I want you to understand that the difference between lost and found, the difference between hell and heaven, the difference between hopeless and filled with hope is just this one simple thing: belief. We're to be a believing people. Believing that payment was good. Listen, not just for those people out there, but also for the people who are in here. Those of you who even today, even this morning, find yourself struggling with sin, with hell raging in your chest right now where you sit, knowing what's happening in your life. The payment's good for you too.